Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Ksubas daf Kuf Ches, we are going to begin on the bottom of Kuf Zayin Medbeis by the Mishnah. Misha halach Medina Siyam. So a person traveled, a man went to another country, and instead of the Beis Din intervening, v'amad echad ufirnes es ishto. So someone else came and provided sustenance for this man's wife. So Chanan Oimer, we say that man lost out on his money. You can actually make a shvua and he could actually take. So if we look in Rashi, what does it mean, Ibn Because the husband could say, I never told you to lend me money and then I'm going to pay you back. I never told you to do this. Aval says Rashi, Im hilva es isha mois. If let's say he lent money to this woman for mizonos, almanasha tishtalim lo, on condition that he would be paid back, hu toiva v'hi tovas habal v'yishalim. So then that situation we would have to pay. But just the pashut shot of reading the Gemara of this Mishnah is that he loses out. So it's actually a machlokas if he loses out. Amar Rav Daisa ben Horkanus Kidivrahim. Rav Yochanan Zaki Yav Omer Chanan. Chanan actually was correct that the guy should lose out. Hanich Maisav al Karen Tzvi. You put your money on a horn of a deer. Not a good place to put your money, which basically means he forfeited his money by giving it to her because he was never instructed to do so, and even though it may have been a nice thing to do, he doesn't get his money back. Tanan Hasam Hamayder Hanam Mechaver. If a person made a neder saying, I'm not going to derive any benefit from you as we continue to Kuf Ches Man Aleph, doesn't make any difference. He could be Shaikel as Shikloi, says Rashi. Shaikel b'shviloi. He could pay the shekel, which is, says Rashi, Shuchayev l'chol shana l'karbanos sibor. So you have to give a certain amount of money for the karbanos sibor, so you could pay that money for him. Even though the truth is, it seems like he's getting hana. We'll see why that's not considered to be breaking your neder. Upareas chayvo, you can even pay up his loans, which is obviously going to be the question that we're going to be focusing on. Umaxil avedasai. If you find, let's say for example, his donkey, you can return it to him. Umakam shenaitlin sachar, in a place where returning an object, you would actually be paid. Says Rashi, al tarech hashvasa, for returning the object, that trouble. So you're causing him, saving money by you giving it to him because he doesn't have to pay. So in this situation, tipo hanol hektish. We say that the tipo hanol hektish. So says Rashi, hanas haschar hektish. It should be given to hektish. Shahari shnehen mudarin hana zebes mized. They both made a nether against each other. So bishlam shaykel as shikol. Let's understand, how is it possible that he can pay off the requirement for the carbon? Because it's because mitzvah ka'avid. He's doing a mitzvah. Not tarmin al ha'avoid, that a person separates for the shekel that got lost. V'al hagaboy, and that which is collected. V'al asid ligvois, and that which in the future will be collected. Fine. So what does that mean? So Rashi says, Koimer mitzvah al makavid. He's doing a mitzvah. Enu menahe lezeh she'imlo shaka olav l'hifsid klum sheishul chelik b'karbanos. The point is that he'll still have a portion of the karbanos even if he didn't give it. Says Rashi, denan tarmin es halishka b'sholosh kupos, because there's 3 different baskets, and al ovid. Av mi shesholach shikol of avad. If let's say you gave a shekel and it's not there, or hagavoy, which was collected, shedain lo higiakan, it's not here yet, yal ha'asid ligvos, that it will be collected. V'efilo nigvil achamikan yeshul chelik b'truma over karbanos el shechis or mitzvah. So he ends up losing out doing a mitzvah. However, he doesn't actually lose out as far as getting the karbanos, which is integral, obviously for every yid, to be connected to the karbanos sibor. So anyway, he can give a shekel. So we skip the second part because that's the key. But you can return the lost object. Now mitzvah covet. He's doing mitzvah. He's giving him a gain. He's paying off your loan. This l'chara seems very clearly like hana. So how is this not a violation of the neder? So Rabbi Yishia Hamani Chananhi. This is like Chanandi, even as Moisav, like we saw in our Mishnah, that if someone gives, because the husband went to Medina Sayyam, this woman, Eshes Chaveri, your friend's wife, it says Rashi was Schabin L'Shem Halva, and you had some intention, like it was like just borrowing money, she is shalim loy bal, the husband would pay back, even a moisav. You have an obligation to give food to your wife, so you have to pay me for it. But when it comes to any other loan, I never told you to help me out. You're not chayiv. It's like he gave nothing. Okay. You can even say like the Rabbanan, who says that no, you have to pay him back. So how is it possible that you can pay someone's loan and still have this Isser of having hana? So that you lent the money on condition not to be paying back. So what does that mean? Says Rashi, the Rabbanan who says you're chayiv al pi shloi armelo havesi v'gabi shar chayiv nami chayiv l'shalim, you have to pay. V'chi mochol aser b'mudar hana. If he was mochel, then it would be aser. V'hachne tani pareilo as chayiv is what does it mean? He paid off the loan. Shahaloiva zet chil halva min hamalva. That originally it was almanah shul efraya, not to pay me back. Ad shirtza, until you want. So he said, pay me back only when you want to. So you don't actually have to pay him back. Since that was the stipulation, so therefore the fact that you paid, I wasn't ready to pay back. Or maybe I'll feel like it in a few years or whatever. So therefore, you didn't really do anything for me. Okay, let's look at question 9. So he said two answers. Either it's like Hanan, who said Ibra Esma Oisab, or Mayri Shaleva Almanah Shalul Ifraya. They can borrow it on condition you don't have to pay me back. Let's see what I wrote over here. Hamoider Hanam Chavero Haim Mutul Ifraya Eschaiva B'Oifin Shaleva Almanah Shalul Ifraya Amadua Libra Rabbanan. I'm not sure if these are right answers. This is what I wrote 8 years ago. He's getting Hana. So you can't, unless there was a Tanai at the time of the halva, that the loan was almanas, that the loiva doesn't have to pay the loiva back. So here, paying it is nothing in mutter. Sounds about right. Let's look at TB2. I see what I did. That was TA2. Okay, that was TA2. TB. Loiva almanah shul ifroa. Ha'im chaveru hu mudar hana mimenu mutul ifroa lechova umadua. Exactly the same thing. Let's see what he wrote here. L'chanan paroa. You can pay it back. De'afil almanas lifroa. Even on condition you have to pay me back. Even de'ein haloiva chayiv l'hachser. Since the loiva is not chayiv to return it, la midi oivloi. L'chachamim tolei b'pukta. Iksufa islay loiva ilo yipara havi milsa di aser b'moider hana. Okay, pretty similar type of a question. That was TA3. Okay, TB3. Okay, weiter. Zalbishlam Ravo Yamer Karabo Yishia the Michael Makarabanan. I can understand he wants to be like the Rabbanan. El Rabbi Yishia, my Tamal Lamer Karabo, Sarmalach, Rabbi Yishia, Nehida Hana Leisley. Oh, this is what he says over here. I can understand that there is no Hana, however, Kuf Chesmad Beis, Kisufa Mi Leisley. There's an element of bush over here. Hasam Nami Isley Hana, by Hi Hana, de Michsif Mine. Says Rashi, De Ha Michsif Min Hamal Vitamid. He's constantly embarrassed that, he has to constantly keep seeing him. So that should be enough that should constitute as an element of hana. Okay. Interesting svar. Next Mishnah. So now we're up to Admoin in his 7 things. Admo Ermer Shiva. First of all, a person left sons and daughters. If he has a lot of money as Yerusha, so the boys inherit, and the girls get the mazonos. However, if there's not a lot of money around, so the boys get basically nothing. They have to beg, and the girls get their mazonos. So Admon Omer, Admon says, I don't understand this. Because I'm a boy, if Santi, I should lose out. So I'm it's a good point. Maybe you shouldn't. You have a good point. So my Kaimer, what exactly is this svara? So Rabbi because I'm a boy and I'm able to learn Torah, so I'm going to lose out. So I'm really Reva, what? Mandi asik b'Torah, hudi yoris, mandi lo asik b'Torah lo yoris. You think it's all totally on whether or not you learn Torah, or whether or not you're going to be Yarish, which means that a boy who's not an Isaac in Torah, so that boy is not going to be Yarish. No, he's Yarish like anyone else. So that doesn't make any sense. That's Svara. El Omer Rabba Hachikam. This is what he really meant. B'shil shani zachav roy li rash b'nachasam Reuben if satim b'nachasam Atim. Just because as a zachar, I do get all this money. If I have tons of money, it's clear that I'm the one that should be getting the money, not her. So then how come if there's not a lot of money, I get nothing? I should still get. So he said that's a very good point. Now this is a very important taisus over here because it kind of ends off with that, which almost sounds like it's a machlokas, what we should do, halacha. So taisus says, halacha is typically like admoin, which sounds like maybe women do not get mizonos from the chasim ruatin. So he says, halacha is not like him, at least in this context. Or if you skip to the bottom of this taisus, he's not arguing. He's just bewildered. He doesn't understand why this is the din. He goes, yeah, you're right. You actually have a legitimate point why that should be as you're saying. However, you may have a great point, but it doesn't make any difference. We're still going to give the chasam watim to the girls. So the halacha, even though I agree to your point, you're making a valid point, that's not enough to overturn what the halacha is. Next Mishnah. Hatoyinis chaver kadesh shemen. So you have a person that says, you owe me these jugs of oil. The haida b'kankanim. And he says, okay, well, I at least agree regarding the jugs, but there's going to be empty jugs. So I'm going to give back a bunch of empty jugs. So the question is that a case of moed b'mixas? So Admon Amar Hoya b'hoida b'mixas atayini yishava. Admon says that this is a case of being moed b'mixas because you admit to some and you're denying. You're admitting to the jugs, but you're denying the oil inside the jugs. This is not considered to be hoidas mixas miminataina. It has to be the same thing. This person is asking for the oil. He's not asking for these empty jugs. So the fact that you're not admitting to any of the oil, that's not being moed b'mixas. Actually, I hear admon that this is a case of being moed b'mixas. So Shema Minol Rabbanan. So you tell me according to the Rabbanan, Tanu Chitim Nasarin, if let's say you have a situation where I say I want wheat and barley, the Haidim Nasarin, and he admits to half of it. He admits the barley that potter. According to him, he says that if you say you have 2 things, wheat and barley, and the guy admits to at least barley, that is considered to be chayav of being moed b'mixas, which seems to be the same case, because the person over here is saying, you owe me 2 things, oil and jugs, and the guy is admitting to the jugs. So the fact that Chachamim say this is not moed b'mixas seems to go against what we just said here. So Rabbi Yehuda Rav no. But Tainu Mida, we're talking about that the complaint is about the measurement. 10 jugs jugfuls of oil is a measurement. He's not claiming the jugs at all, and therefore has nothing to do with the jugs. So you might tell me to Admon. So why would Admon say that that's a case of being moed b'mixas? He's just telling me that you owe me 10 gallons of oil, but he's not talking about what the containers are. So how could Admon say that's being moed b'mixas? El Omer Rav, we have to understand this better. The Kol Yalma Heichad Yarmalei Molia Sarah Kadishemen Yeshli Biborcha, that you owe me 10 jugs worth of oil that is in this pit. Now, there's not even talking about jugs. He's saying that there's 10 measures of oil that's in this pit. Shemin katoin le, kankanim lo katoin le. Obviously, he's talking about the oil. He's not focused on how you bring that oil and transfer it from one place to the next. He's only focused on the oil. Asar kade, but if he mentions the word kade, shemen maleim yeshli etzacha, shemen v'kankanim katoin le. In that situation, everyone would agree because he's mentioning both. So if he mentions both and he admits on the kankanim, everyone would agree that you're being moed b'mixus over there. So key please, what's the machlokas? Heichad Amrli, where he said the following language: Asara kade shemen, 10 jugs, similar to what we said before. Yeshli etzacha, and it is by you. Not Asara kade shemen malayim yeshli etzacha. Right. So he changed the language. Instead of saying Asar Kadesh Shemen Malayim, he just said Asar Kadesh Shemen. He didn't say the word Malayim. That was the key difference. So Admon Omer Yesh B'Loshen Hazel Loshen Kankanim. He is still talking about the jugs. He says Kadeh, and therefore it's being Moed B'Mixus. Rabbanan Sabri Ein B'Loshen Hazel B'Loshen Kankanim. Actually, the fact that he didn't mention the word Malayim, so therefore that already is not including the jugs. That wasn't his focus. So the fact that you mentioned and agreed to the kankanim, that's not being moed b'mixus. The only reason why the Chachamim say no is because the language. However, rather, if it was the proper language, then it would be good. And you would be chayav to be moed b'mixus, make such a shvua. So let him have the Rabbi Rabbi. Your Rabbi Rabbi tanu v'chitin nesarin v'hoydel becha mehem potter. So it's a machlokas. So this now seems to be on the other side, that the Chachamim hold that if someone claims wheat and barley, and you only admit to one, to barley, that you're going to be chayiv. But according to Rav Chia Barabba, he says you're potter. So Rav Shimi Barashi, nasikmi shetainu rimoin bekli pasai. He says that the jug and the oil is like you're being is a taina of a pomegranate in its shell. Says Rashi, lo damu kadim v'shemen l'chitim v'sa'irun. You can't compare the jugs and oil to wheat and barley. To kuli chada milsahu. It's like one thing. It's like a pomegranate in its shell. Umimin hatainahu, and that's why it's considered to be mimin hataina. However, when it comes to chit and sa'ira, according to this other shita, according to Rav Chia Barabba, there are two separate things. One's wheat and one's barley. However, you can't have oil without putting it into something, into jugs. So the jugs and the oil, they're complementary items. They need each other. So therefore, if you admit to one, that's considered to be mimin hataina. So 1 second. A pomegranate without a shell, it won't be protected. It's not, and it will get ruined. So that makes sense. The shemen minter below kankanim, you can have oil without jugs. As we saw, it can be in a pit. It can be in some holding station. El hachmai skinon, the Amrle, he says this is the pshat. That he says that the guy said asar kadi shemen. Again, there's 10 jugs of oil. He doesn't say the word malayim. Again, he says yeshli etzlacha, that is by you. So that's the same thing. However, v'amrulei, and he said back, idach shemen lo haya davar mi'olam. I said lo hadam. As far as the oil, I don't know what you're talking about. Now you know oil at all. So he said, I do not owe you the oil. Kankanim nami chamisha islach chamisha leislach. So he said, not that I admit to all the kankanim, but I do admit out of the 10, I owe you 5. So admon oimer yesh loshen azel loshen kankanim. He says, since there's the lashon of kankanim in there, umigu dikishatava kankanim. Once he makes a shvua, moed b'mixus on the kankanim, because instead of 10, he admits to 5, so that's being moed b'mixus. So then mishtaban nami hashemen alidei gilgul. So once he's already making a shvua deraiso, we could add on other shvuas, a gilgul shvua on the oil. even though when it comes to someone's kafir b'kol, it's not chayav in a shvua deraisa, it's maybe shvuas hasis. However, it's not a din deraisa. But once you're already mechuyev to make a shvua deraisa, but what if it mixes? At that point, you could already make a gilgul shvua. Rabbanan sabri in b'lashon azel lashon kan kanim. So this is not a language of jugs. And therefore, mashatanu lo hoyda lo masha hoyda lo tainoi. And therefore, that's the reason why there's no shvua what if it mixes. So that's the second answer. Questions. We're going to stop. Question 10. So the Omerle, Asar Kadi Shemen Yeshli Etzacha. You have 10. The Omerle Idach Shemen Lo Hoya Devar Me'olam, which is the second answer. We're saying this is the only answer. Not because the problem is, again, as we said, it's not Meminataina, it's not comparable to a Riemann B'Kli Pasai. So he says, okay, that was question 10. Let's see if I have any other questions over here. TA3. Nope. TB4. Adkan.